Have you ever been in a thrift store and had a particular item catch your eye? If so, you may have a good eye for value. One man's trash is another man's treasure, and instances where an item's value is overlooked by all but a few happens very often. Today, we're going to be looking at thrift stores that have made people an enormous return. The Stadium Events video game. In 2013, Jennifer from North Carolina was just roaming around the DVD section in her thrift store when she noticed an old-school video game cartridge. After taking a few more looks at it, she knew it looked familiar. She chose to drive to a nearby McDonald's to use the Wi-Fi to check up on the value of the game. And to no surprise, she unveiled that it was worth thousands of dollars. She immediately drove back to the store, purchased the game for a mere $8, and then took it to a video game store for further verification. Once she arrived at the game store, the store owner was so shocked that he gasped when he saw the video game. At that point, Jennifer then knew for sure that she had a gem. Turns out there were only around 200 that ever retailed, and once she listed it on an online auction, a buyer from Indiana took it off her hands for the grand price of $25,000. The Vince Lombardi sweater. Vince Lombardi was an American football coach who coached for various football teams in the 1950s to the 1960s. These teams included the Green Bay Packers, the New York Giants, and the Washington Redskins. Sean and Ricky were just searching through a pile of clothes where they came across a sweater that read West Point across the front. Paying by the pound, they ended up paying around 58 cents total for the sweater. When they aimed to sell the clothes from the store for a profit initially, they didn't find much use for the sweater to begin with, so they tossed it to the side. 5 months later, while watching a documentary on the famous football coach, they came across a photo of him wearing the very same sweater that had been lying around their home. Immediately going to double-check the sweater, Sean and Ricky had noticed the name tag Lombardi attached to the sweater. The couple was astonished. They then chose to call the NFL Hall of Fame to tell them of their findings, who asked them to donate the sweater. But knowing the gem they had on their hands, they definitely chose to pass. Eventually, they auctioned off the sweater, and an anonymous collector bought the sweater for over $43,000. Sean stated, "It's just like winning the lottery." The authentic sculpted necklace. Back in 2005, a woman visited the Brooklyn flea market and found what she presumed to be a cheap necklace within a pile of electronics and clothing. For the low price of $15, she bought a necklace that was worth nowhere near that price. Later on down the line, when checking out the Philadelphia Art Museum, the lucky buyer noticed many similarities of necklaces on display when comparing her lucky find. After getting in touch with one of the organizers at the museum, they examined her necklace for its authenticity. They were then able to confirm that the piece was created by the famed sculptor Alexander Calder back in the 1940s. Calder was famous for many pieces of art in the 20th century and developed a new method of sculpting by bending wires. Once she had it evaluated by experts, it turns out it was worth $300,000. Which is 20,000 times more than what she had initially paid. The James Bond watch. The secret agent himself wore this very watch in the movie Thunderball, which aired in 1965. Apparently, after the movie, the watch had gone missing, but was seen during a garage sale by a watch collector. While this watch was created in the 1960s, its capabilities exceeded most technology created around that time. It was said that it was waterproof and even able to detect radiation, which is quite fitting as James Bond in the movie used it to detect atomic bombs. Only one of these bad boys were made, so when the buyer noticed it, he immediately bought it, with a small price of £25, or about $38. Knowing what the buyer had purchased, he placed it for auction at Charlie's Pop Culture Auction in South Kensington, London, where he expected to sell it for way more than $38. Once he had arrived to his expectations, the watch sold for the grand price of 103,875 pounds, which was about 160,000 US dollars. Talk about really hitting it big. The diamond in disguise. A few years back in 2017, at a junk sale in London, lied a beautiful diamond ring. When the buyer spotted said ring, they couldn't help but pick it up. And when it only cost the buyer $13, it was pretty easy to assume that it was fake. But because she loved the look so much, she chose to wear it around anyway, thinking it was just costume jewelry. But eventually, one day, a jeweler noticed the ring and told her that it may actually be worth something. So, out of curiosity, she brought it into a jewelry store. Much to her surprise, when she arrived, she was told that the gem she had been carrying around all the time was actually a 26-carat white diamond, with plenty of other stunning qualities, and was evaluated to have an estimated value of around $350,000. When she placed her rare find up for auction, she received more than double her estimate when sold. The jewel sold for $848,000 at the Sotheby's Fine Jewels auction in London. A life-changing amount of money.